This video might make you question everything, or it might make you think that I lost my mind. Whichever one it is will probably depend on your past life experiences and your current belief systems. But one thing is for certain, it wasn't a coincidence that you clicked on this video. And I will explain to you why that is. Every person you meet, every interaction, everything that happens to you, it tells you something deeper about yourself. There are clues in there. And this isn't some spiritual woo-woo. We tend to think of our external environment as something objective, something separate from us. But what if that's not the case? What if what we call reality isn't something that exists outside of us in the way that we think it does? Depth, structure, color, smell, sound, they're not just out there. They exist because we can experience them. And this might sound a bit vague still, so stick with me. You may have heard the question before, if a tree falls in the forest and there's no one there to hear it, did it make a sound? I believe that it does. Because even when there was no one there to hear it, the possibility of sound still exists. Because there are conscious beings that can experience it. If no conscious beings, however, would exist that can experience sound, sound as we know it also wouldn't exist. Sound waves might still move through the air, but sound is more than waves. Sound is what is created when sound waves and our ears work together. The same goes for color. Color isn't just out there. It exists because of how our eyes and light interact. And the way you interpret life events, that's not objective either. It's filtered through your beliefs, your emotions, and your past experiences. You don't just see the world. You see a version of the world that was filtered through you. Each of us experiences a different version of the world, shaped by what we learned to see. An architect looks at buildings and sees layers that you don't. The structure, the weight distribution, the hidden choices that most people don't even know about. An empathetic person might notice emotional shifts no one else notices. A subtle change in tone, the hesitation in a sentence, what was said between the lines. A psychologist recognizes patterns, relationship dynamics, fears and defenses just by observing someone. Seeing this whole layer over reality that most people don't. Throughout life, certain layers call us in. We're drawn to understand them. And once we do, we start to see them in the world. When you deeply learn about a topic, like psychology, or music, or physics, it's like gaining access to a new lens. And even people that are trained in the same thing still don't see the exact same lens, because that lens is also colored by their own life experiences. So what we call reality isn't the truth. It's our version of it. And of course there is something objective out there. Otherwise there wouldn't be consistency over time and between people. So I see a tree, you also see a tree. And tomorrow that tree is also still there. So we can agree that there is probably something tree-like out there. But the way I see the colors of that tree might be slightly different than how you see them. The associations that I have with the tree are probably quite different than you might have. So even though we're looking at the same tree, our experience of it is very different. So your interpretation of what's around you isn't the truth. It's a version of it created through you. And once you start to realize this, the whole world becomes a mirror. And this can be very fun because it contains all these clues about what's going on in your unconscious. Your desires, your fears, your wounds, your beliefs. Even the way you perceive other people tells you more about you than about them. Or the movies and songs you're drawn to. They're not random. And some things might not be very deep, but others might be. For a long time, I couldn't really listen to happy music because it didn't resonate with my inner world, what was going on inside of me. I listened to deeper, more emotional songs, and the lyrics were often about inner conflict. And only later, understanding myself better and looking back, I now realize why I felt so drawn to these songs. It's like life is constantly trying to show you something if you're willing to listen. And questioning the way you look at things and the way you interpret them can be really fun. Also quite confrontational, but mainly very valuable. And tools like ChatGPT can be great for this. So you can ask it stuff like, this is how I look at the situation. What can this say about my unconscious beliefs? And what other perspectives might there be that I'm not seeing or not willing to see? And slowly you'll start to see that your view isn't the truth. It's just a version of it built by your past experiences. Just listen to the following clip. Often we're not open to seeing these other perspectives because our ego gets in the way. So we hold on to our truths and become rigid in our beliefs. And in the video I just showed you, your ego wasn't very attached to what was said, so it was easy to shift your perspective. But once our sense of self or our self-worth or even our sense of safety is involved, this becomes a lot more difficult. Our ego doesn't like to be questioned. It wants to be right. It wants certainty. Many of us were taught to feel ashamed of our inner world. So we start to see judgment everywhere in the outer world. We believe that emotions are bad, so we hide them. We believe that our fears are weak, so we stuff them down so nobody can see. But there's no escaping it, because the outer world is a reflection of your inner world. And the more you try to separate them, the more they will merge. I want to share a research experiment that I think illustrates this very beautifully, and it's the scar experiment. In this experiment, researchers applied a very real-looking scar to participants' faces. And they told them that they were researching how people respond to facial disfigurements. Before these participants were sent to have a conversation with the stranger, they were told that they needed to do a quick touch-up of the scar. Instead of touching it up, they removed it. But the participants didn't know this. They were fully in the illusion that they still had the scar on their face. After the conversation, participants reported feeling judged, stared at, and treated differently. All because of a scar that wasn't there. Their belief of having a scar shaped how they interpreted reality. And if they would have just told the other person, "Hey, I'm feeling very self-conscious right now. I feel like you're judging my scar," the other person would have likely said, "What scar?" And suddenly their outer world would have shifted. And they would be confronted with the truth that the judgment came from inside, not outside. My microphone just died, so I had to charge it. And in the meantime, the sun has decided to go away. So that's why the lighting is a bit different now. But we're just gonna continue on. So what was I talking about? Our ego becomes sort of a wall between our inner and our outer world. We start hiding what's going on inside of us, and we start making assumptions about what's going on out there. And it's only when we start to question our assumptions and share our inner experiences that the world really starts to feel kind of like a playground. And we start looking at our feelings and beliefs with curiosity and wonder instead of judgment and shame. You realize other perspectives aren't threats, they're possibilities. And over the last months, I've really started to experience this wall between my inner and outer world slowly dissolving. I started to trust my feelings, not because they're a true reflection of reality, but because they're a true reflection of what's going on inside of me. I learned to question my beliefs and my perspectives, and I started seeing the patterns that were steering my decisions and my life without me even realizing it. And things kept happening that were almost a bit too weird to be a coincidence. And maybe it's confirmation bias. But even if things happen randomly, the way we interpret them never is. Our interpretation gives us clues about what's going on in our unconscious. Right after I wrote the script for this video, I went on a walk in the woods, and I was sitting on a bench, and an older woman approached me and we started talking. And I was telling her that I saw this really beautiful butterfly, and she was telling me what kind of butterfly it probably was. And she was telling me about all these types of different birds. And I told her, like, I know nothing about this. And she said to me, when you don't know about different birds and the sounds that they make, everything just kind of sounds the same. It's only when you learn about this world that you start to see and hear all these different types of birds, and it's really like a new world opens up. And she said, it's like going to a concert for the first time. Then you only just hear music. But the more often you go, you start to be able to pick out all these different instruments, and it becomes a whole different experience. And after this, she also shared an app with me on which I could record bird sounds, and it would tell me what bird it was. And just like that, a new layer was added to my reality. And I thought this was very funny, and maybe it was a coincidence, but I will leave you to decide what it was. If you take one thing from this video, let it be this. Start to dissolve the separation between your inner and outer world. Start sharing what you feel. Investigate what it means. And question your beliefs and the filters that are put over your reality. And don't judge yourself for any of it. Many of the things that you believe to be true about the world have its roots in your childhood. They were handed to you by your parents, culture, or the things that you experienced. And you've worn these perspectives like glasses. But if they're not helping you, try on some different ones and see what resonates. People might have different experiences of reality than you. And once you set your ego aside, you'll learn that these can coexist. And it's not about who's right and who's wrong. When you can do this, relationships become a lot more fun and light, and you really start to see what people add joy and meaning to your life, even if they have different opinions than you do. And if they differ in their view of reality, you can either learn from them and gain a new perspective, or acknowledge that you just have a different experience and that those two can coexist. And relationships will become a lot more meaningful, genuine, and compassionate this way. With this video, I let you in on some of my own filters and perceptions of reality, and whether or not it resonates with you will probably depend on yours. But one thing is for sure, something about this video made YouTube's algorithm recommend it to you, and something about the thumbnail and the title drew you in. And potentially, there are some clues in there about what's going on inside of you and your unconscious. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe if I added something meaningful to how you see the world.